During the Battle of Stalingrad in December 1942, plans were proposed to Hitler by Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler and Obergruppenführer Gottlob Berger, a key recruiting officer, regarding the significant expansion of the Waffen SS. The idea of raising the first non-Germanic unit also came up, partly because Bosnian Muslims were seen as ideal candidates. Himmler himself was intrigued by Islam, and he emphasized that Bosnian units of the former Austro-Hungarian army had performed well, adding that now they could find a common cause, fighting against international Jewry. In February 1943, Hitler approved the project, but this would not be a straightforward process. After the 1941 Axis invasion of Yugoslavia, the country was carved up by its neighbors, but the independent state of Croatia was also created, encompassing not only Croatia, but also Bosnia and Herzegovina and bits of Serbia. This state was headed by Ante Pavelic, leader of the Ustaše, a fascist organization, but real power was in the hands of the Germans, who only partially and unwillingly shared it with their Italian allies. Bosnian Muslims were in a dire situation in this new state. Both Croatian Ustaše and Serbian Chetnik troops had ravaged their villages and massacred the local Muslim population, and the Croatian authorities were reluctant to seriously help them. To many Muslim leaders, Germany seemed to be the only viable option for obtaining protection. Himmler desired a purely Muslim division, but even in 1943, ensuring Croatian loyalty was still an important aspect, and since Pavelic feared that such a unit would be the first step towards Bosnian independence, a compromise had to be worked out. In the end, a Croatian volunteer division was formed, led by Obergruppenführer Arthur Fleps, commander of the 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division Prinz Eugen. Recruitment began in March 1943, but the number of volunteers remained low, so an Albanian regiment was quickly raised, by force, in Kosovo and the Sanjak region. Then the only effective Bosnian militia was added in Tuzla. This force was headed by Muhammad Haji Efendic, who first introduced the German envoy to local Muslim leaders in Sarajevo, then convinced 6,000 of his followers to join up, angering the Croatians who wanted the division for themselves. In early April, the Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, visited the region and inspected the division. He agreed with the locals that the unit should not be moved out of Bosnia, but his advice was ignored. Recruitment remained slow, so almost 3,000 Catholic Croatians were also integrated, while the Signal Battalion was entirely German. Some new recruits, in true Balkan fashion, picked up their uniforms, sold them at the local market, then enlisted again. The officers and NCOs were mostly ethnic Germans, who came from other SS units or from the former Yugoslav territories, but even with their involvement, not all positions could be filled. Despite earlier recommendations, the decision was then made to transport the division to southern France for training, where a former Wehrmacht colonel, Karl Gustav Zauberzweig, joined as their new commander. Although he didn't speak the language, he was a capable and charismatic leader who gained the respect of the other officers and the enlisted men. In September, while the division was training at Villefranche-de-Rouergue, a group of pro-partisan soldiers and junior officers of the Pioneer Battalion mutinied, killing several German officers and capturing others. Two of these Volksdeutsche captives managed to escape by conversing in Hungarian, which they also spoke, and running away, alerting the other units. The mutineers claimed that the war was over and the Allies would soon arrive, but their lies were quickly dismantled by the unit imam and the unit physician. The revolt was then soon suppressed, its ringleaders were executed. After this event, the division was moved to Neuhammer in Silesia, where it received its new name in October. The 13th Waffen Mountain Division of the SS Handschar, 1st Croatian, concluded training in February 1944, so it could be transported by rail to northeastern Bosnia to protect its designated security zone. Between March and May 1944, the unit participated in several operations aimed at destroying partisan Third Corps in Serbia to protect the Zagreb-Belgrade Railway. Although the partisans avoided open battles, the Handschar did encounter serious resistance and reported hundreds of partisans killed and captured, although a large portion were actually local Serb civilians. Several villages along the Sava were burned, but serious encounters also took place, for example at Čelić, where the 2nd Battalion of 28th Regiment, led by its commander Hans Hanke, pushed back the enemy, then repelled their counterattacks. In April, 200 Muslim partisans surrendered, hundreds more were killed, and large amounts of supplies were captured. Half of the security zone was thus cleared, showing real success. At this point, the Albanian battalion was released in order to form the newly raised 21st Waffen Mountain Division Skanderbeg. It was replaced with new recruits before Operation Maibaum started at the end of April. As part of 5th SS Mountain Corps, the 13th Waffen Division pushed south through Tuzla in order to capture Zvornik. It encountered 3 partisan divisions, and while a Waffen battalion was almost wiped out, in the end the partisans were prevented from crossing the Drina River into Serbia, scattering their formations. In May, another battle followed, in which trapped partisan brigades were further weakened, while the relief efforts of the 16th Vojvodina Division were stopped with the cooperation of a local Chetnik unit. The Handschar then continued to guard the security zone. The relief was temporary. In June, Josip Broz Tito ordered a national uprising after a failed German attempt to kill or capture him. 3 strong columns headed into the division's security zone, destroying 1 battalion, but eventually retreating after hundreds of casualties. The division lost 200 dead and almost 600 wounded, then spent the rest of the month fighting off new infiltration attempts, although some elements had to guard Hungarian Jewish forced laborers, some of whom were murdered by these guards once they were no longer able to work. In July, an attempt was made to destroy a makeshift runway south of the Tuzla-Zvornik road, but it was only damaged during the fierce fighting. In the meantime, Zauberzweig received orders to form a new Waffen Mountain Corps, so the commander of the 27th Regiment, Desiderius Hampel, was appointed as the division's new leader. At the same time, a second unit, the 23rd Waffen Mountain Division Kama, was set up with fresh recruits, using some of the officers and NCOs of the Handschar, weakening the division. In July, another push to the south was partially successful, killing almost 1,000 partisans and uncovering several secret bases. In August, a major operation followed to encircle Bosnian partisan units, but their march into Serbia was only delayed. The division now showed signs of exhaustion and even disintegration. Over 2,000 soldiers deserted as the front was approaching, and Tito declared a general amnesty. In September, the southern portion of the security zone had to be given up. Proposals to disarm the Handschar were denied at first. Some elements were transported to Serbia, but when Belgrade fell to the Red Army and partisan forces, even Himmler agreed to disarm the now unreliable Bosnians. Many had to join labor battalions, and by November, the division became 50% German. The remaining units were moved one by one into the Baranya region, where 2 Soviet bridgeheads had been established. Although Kampfgruppe Hanke fought well, they could not stop the Red Army, and the retreat continued until reaching Siófok at Lake Balaton in Hungary. Trench warfare followed until March 1945, when some units participated in Operation Spring Awakening, the last major German offensive. However, the Soviet Vienna offensive came next, so what was left of the division was soon on German soil. Hampel surrendered to the British, the remaining men were moved to Rimini in Italy, while of those who had tried to return to their homeland, more than 1,400 were massacred by the partisans. Zauberzweig committed suicide, Hampel escaped from the POW camp, but 38 members were extradited to Yugoslavia, of which 10 were executed, the rest were sent to prison. At Nuremberg, the Waffen-SS was declared a criminal organization, but this did not deter everybody from reaching out. Interestingly, thousands of former members were invited by Syria and Iraq after the war, and around 1,000 of them participated in the 1948-49 Arab-Israeli War.